All right, hello, fellow coder. Welcome to this next lesson in our FreshVotes series. In this one, we are going to hopefully, do a bit of research on how to implement this new schema that we've come up with in the world of Java. So I think in our FreshVotes, domain objects, we have the comment. And the comment is what has that fancy ID, the embedded ID or embeddable ID here. So comment ID is embeddable, and then the comment itself has this as the primary key, which is called embedded ID. So this is now, thankfully, going to get a lot simpler because we just want to have a plain old ID, right? That was our first thing here. A plain old ID is the primary key. So in other words, we're getting rid of this primary key, or this complicated comment ID primary key object. So we can literally delete this entire thing because we don't really need it anymore. So let's delete that. Okay. And in comment, we can get rid of the comment ID because we just deleted that object. Okay. And then we need to do the getters and setters for the ID that we just added in. And then we can make this the ID. And I think the generated value, I forget, did we say identity as the strategy for the generated value? I can't recall what we do. Let's open feature or something. Yeah, strategy identity. Strategy identity. Okay, save that. And then ID, import that as JavaX persistence. Cool. All right, so that covers the ID and the text part, which was the simple part. Then there's the user ID. Okay, so previously the user ID relationship was mapped in the embedded ID, or the embeddable ID, whatever it was. So now we need to pull that into here. So I believe it was many to one, right? So any one comment should map back to one and only one user. So the comment should only have one user. In other words, we don't have a set of users or a list or a collection of users. It's just one user. So that's good. What else? Feature. So again, with feature, any given comment should map back to one and only one feature, right? Which is why we don't have a collection of features. We just have one feature. And then here, any one comment could map back to 0 or 1 comments, either or, okay? But not more than one. So this is still a many-to-one relationship. It's a special kind of many-to-one relationship, in my opinion. Now I'm going to just do this as if I'm taking a risk here. I'm not going to Google it. I'm trying to think, is that advantageous to not Google it first and just see what goes wrong? Probably not. I should probably Google it, right? I said I was going to. So let's go to Google and let's type in hibernate. Let's see, self-reference relationship. Sure. Hibernate self. Adding a one-to-many relationship to a self-reference parent-child. So Stack Overflow, what do you got? Using Spring and Hibernate, can I implement a one-to-many relationship between the parent-child in a self-reference class and another class? Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I'm working with. That's really cool. So what do we have here? The model is employee is the class. It has an ID. It has a name. It has a many-to-one to manager, and then a one-to-many back to itself. Okay, that's similar to what we're doing. We have a many-to-one and a many-to-one. Oh no, it might be one-to-many. No, that is what we're doing. Yes, that is exactly the situation that we're in, I believe. So there is an answer. I probably should have made sure there was an answer that was accepted. Let's see. No, they didn't give any explanation as to what they're doing here. So let me go back to his question. Now I want to create a one-to-many relationship for both of the parent-child and another class. So we have the many-to-one. So an employee is a many-to-one back to a manager, and then I assume here the manager is, what? He's talking about courses now. That's kind of strange. Oh my god, and lecturer, what is he doing? I say he, you never know. Both manager and employee will have association. Let's just see what this guy suggests. Person, I should be saying person. Stable course. Many to one join column. So they're referencing join columns. Yeah, actually, I see. Yeah, that's probably what we will need, a join column. Yeah, for the comment. Okay, so I'm glad I did that. I think that might be the answer. So we need to just say what the join column will be within it, potentially. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Let's keep that in the back of our mind, this whole idea of a join column. So I did the getters and setters for the user, feature, and comment. Was that it in terms of our user, feature, comment? Oh, yeah, and created date. Private date, created date. Okie dokie. Now, there is, I will say, for created date and like updated date and created by and updated by, those are columns in databases that are fairly common. And there is a whole auditing framework that you can use. I forget if it's built into like, if it's a JPA type thing or what. But there is an auditable or something, or audit something that you can add to your classes. But having said that, that's if you have a lot of classes that are going to be using these, created date and created by and updated date and updated by columns all over the place. It becomes powerful when you have just a framework where you can just use an annotation saying, at created by or whatever. I believe the annotation is like if I say at created date. Oh, there you go. So it comes from Spring Framework, right? Declares a field as the one representing the date the entity containing the field was created. So Spring Data, this comes from Spring Data, this stuff. But there's setup that needs to happen around this to make it work. I think your class will need to implement auditable and stuff like that. So it's just a little bit more work than I want to do at this exact moment. But I wanted to mention it so that if you're in a situation where you have a bunch of these tables with a bunch of these, created date, created by, updated date, updated by, or whatever, there's a framework you can use to make your life easier. In other words, you don't have to do the work yourself. It'll do it for you in terms of populating the data. So that's what I mean. It populates the data for you automatically. But like I said, for now, let's just keep it simple. We will populate the data ourselves manually when we create the comment and persist it to the database. We'll make sure we put a date in there. So, okay, cool. Now that we've done the 4 or 5, whatever this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields, we need to map out our relationships. So on the getter for user, it's a many to one. That's simple. Again, feature, many to one. That's fine. This is the one that is going to be interesting. I'm trying to think now. This is not as simple. So as I'm thinking about it in my brain, I'm like, oh dear, this is not as simple as I imagined. Let me go back to the example. Many to one, join column, lecturer in course. Here's what I'm going through in my head. So this is a comment, right? The class is a comment. Let's assume we're looking at an actual comment, like we had in this example. Let's say we're looking at this guy, right? This comment. So comment ID 1000. We're looking at this comment. How do I know the list of comments associated with it, right? So if I have this comment and I'm in the UI, I'm going to say, hey, give me a list of the comments that belong to this one, so that I can just output them on the screen. That would be helpful, right? It would be helpful to know that. But right now, with the way that our object is set up, there's no way to do that, right? I don't have a list of comments anywhere, right? I only know, so this comment only has, so essentially this is kind of like only having the child side. So all we know is, we don't know the parent, all we know is the individual children of that parent comment is essentially the situation that we're in. And while that, we could make that work, probably it's a lot of extra work on the UI side to get that working properly. Although I guess we could do that in the service. Create like a comment, data structure of some sort where we can map this all out, so it makes it easy to reproduce on the front end. Maybe there's a way to do that. It's a bit of heavy lifting. So here's what I'm thinking, right? The solution is also to have a list or a set, whatever you want to do, a collection of comments, right? Equals new, let's call it linked hash set, so that it's, actually linked. Is this, can you sort a linked hash set? I don't know. Let's just make it a list, just to make our lives easy for now. So we'd have a list of comments within a comment, right? So that's one, but then that's one way to do it. But then when you are, I guess that's okay. I guess that's the other way to do it. So we're talking about the other side of the relationship now. Yeah, let's try this. Let's try this way and see if this works. So that means we get rid of this guy and we replace it with the comments. And then the relationship here is not many to one, it's a one to many now. Many, right? One to many. And let's see in the example, do they just say, one to many mapped by manager. But that's just it, right? Because now we need to say mapped by equals what, right? What is it mapped by? Because usually the mapped by tells you the other side, tells you where you're going to have the child. And then this is where you would say, oh, it's mapped by a comment, a singular comment. But then we don't have a singular comment in here, right? So we have to then re-add the private comment, and then map it back in itself, have a comment back in, which is a many to one, right? Where the join column name would be comment ID. I mean, we could try that. We could see if that works, right? Join column and then insertable, updatable. Okay, they added some other stuff. So this guy, nullable equals true, right? This can be a null value. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. So the real test is going to be, let's boot her up. But first, what I need to do is in the application properties file, I'm going to switch this from update to be create. Because there's no way it's going to be able to update the existing schema properly. So let's just create a new one. So we'll lose all of our data, which is a little unfortunate, but we can make it back up again. So if I say run, or if I right click and say run as Spring Boot app, let's see if this even runs, right? Yes, I want to allow access. So no, it did not have. Map by reference, an unknown target entity property, blah, 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 blah. Oh wait, comment PK feature. Hold on, that's not what I expected. Mapped by reference, an unknown target entity property. So domain comment.pk.feature. 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 Where I must have... Where's comment.pk? Do I have pk in here anywhere? No. Okay, let me think. Where is this coming from? Oh, in feature comments. Okay. So it tells me feature comments, right? Comments, here we go. Okay, mapped by PK feature, right. So no, it's not PK feature anymore. It's just mapped by feature. So remember we had that fancy embeddable ID or whatever, that was still making reference to the fancy version of it. But if you go into comments just has feature now. It used to be pk.feature, but now it's just feature. So okay, that's cool. That's a legitimate problem that I had in my code. So cool. Still not, well, it almost booted up, or it looks like it booted up. So it tried to create the schema, and I guess it failed. Yeah, it was one of the, it was trying to do some foreign key stuff. Cannot add or update a child row. A foreign key constraint fails. FreshVotes constraint is called whatever. Product ID references product. From what table? FreshVotes dot, who knows what that is. Product ID. Was it not able to drop the table? Executing add constraint, foreign key, alter table feature. So it's trying to add a foreign key to the feature table. So the feature add constraint. So it's trying to add a foreign key. Was it not able to drop the let me refresh my database here and see if it doesn't seem like it dropped the table. So let me hit restart, because it should drop the table, drop everything at the beginning, right? Interesting. So let me forcefully drop. Let me say drop database FreshVotes. Boom. Create database FreshVotes. Okay. Well, let me keep those commented out just in case I need to use them. There. So now we have fresh FreshVotes. So let's restart, and hopefully it doesn't have that same problem. Table freshvotes.vote doesn't exist. Alter table vote, drop foreign key. Interesting that it's having troubles it's trying to create. Oh, look at all the errors. Whoo-wee! So, alter table authority, drop foreign key, error executing that, table FreshVotes authority doesn't exist. So it's like it thought it should have existed. Am I going losing my marbles here? I said create. Yeah, so it should know that it's creating it from scratch. So why would it have trouble? So let me start it again one more time. That looks better. There we go. So that was a bit weird, right? So that's what I'm saying with this whole, when you change the database schema in the way that we did, because we changed it quite dramatically, it got confused, right? Even though we were saying let's drop it and recreate everything, it was still confused. So now my hypothesis is if I keep on restarting from this point, everything should be okay. So that was weird, right? It should, once I dropped the table once, or dropped everything, not table, the whole database once, it should have just worked when I restarted, but then it's like it thought that the tables should have still existed. So maybe I should have used create-drop, right? Maybe create-drop would have been a better way to do that, because I'm telling it to drop it when I shut down the server. So maybe that would have left it in a better position. So maybe I just confused it because I dropped the stuff without it. But as you can see now, rebooting every time, it boots up okay. Now the follow-up thing is, what mess did it do with our actual tables? So I don't see any strange tables, right? I was thinking maybe there's going to be some strange tables that it would do with comment. So that's good. There's no strange tables. But now let's see what comment looks like, because it could be a mess. ID, create date text, comment ID, feature ID, user ID. Holy cow, that's exactly what I wanted to see. Okay, and what does feature look like? Feature has a product ID and a user ID. Yeah, but feature has a one-to-many to comment, and the comment bears the burden of holding the feature ID, which it has. Okay. Wow. I feel like that worked too well. Okay, so there we go. Let's end this video. And in the next video, where we can actually test this out. We can actually start to insert comments and from the, like I can insert comments now from a database perspective, because the database right here, ID, text, create a date, feature ID, comment ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The database schema in the table itself that I'm looking at, it matches exactly what I would want it to look like. So from that perspective, beautiful, right? So great. We managed to write some Java code to make it create the database table exactly like we expected it to. So fantastic. That I wasn't expecting that to work so well. But the second part of it is we need to actually use this in practice in our Java code and start to insert and use the database repositories to execute saves and see if it actually properly saves the data as we would expect it to save the data. That's always going to be a gamble too. So let's see that. We'll see what we can do in the next video. Hopefully we can get to the point where we're doing the saves, but I can't remember if we built the UI to support all this stuff yet. So we probably need to build out the UI. That's my guess anyway. We'll probably spend the video building out the UI, and then we will be able to actually execute the save and do the debugging and see if it actually works. I'm very excited. This is I think the most confusing part in my brain. The hardest part was to get this specific functionality working. So if we can get through this, if we can get the comments part working, I think we're going to be in great shape. Famous last words. So we'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. As always, happy learning, and bye for now.